So today, SMCY gave me a great opportunity to buy some more shares to help lower my real price per share. We're going to go over what price I got it at and how many shares I have and how I decided it was the right time for me to buy. Then we're going to take a look at a LEAPS option that I did today on Visa. We're going to go over how much that cost me and what my goal and plan is for that option play, and show that if you have a smaller account, you can get into some options on these great stocks without it costing you $30,000 to get in. Hello, my friends, this is Legend. So today we're going to take a look at my buy on SMCY. We'll then follow it up with a LEAPS option that I did on Visa, as I'm very excited about that one. I want to show you how much it cost me and where I'm looking for it to go and at what point am I looking to get out. So if you enjoy this type of content, I appreciate it if you would hit that like button, as it does help the channel out. So let's just go ahead and start right off with the high yield ETFs. And as you can see, we're looking at my spreadsheet here. And just viewing through my spreadsheet, I can quickly see which ones I need to focus on. If it is red in this cell here, then that means that if I do buy those shares, it will help to lower that real price per share. So the ones that I need to focus on to help lower my real price per share or my adjusted price per share is CONY, ULTY, and SMCY. And as you can see, the rest of them so far are all still green. So the only ones that I have to look at are those three. So just because it's red does not mean necessarily that it's the right time for me to buy more shares. So let's take a look at the charts on CONY, ULTY, and SMCY, and let's see why I selected SMCY over CONY and ULTY. All right, so here we are on the stock charts. And I've got CONY currently pulled up. Now, I'm showing the Bollinger Band. You can see right here that white line at the top. That's the upper part of that Bollinger Band. The blue line is the midpoint, and the yellow line is the lower portion of that Bollinger Band. So whenever I'm looking for that purchase, as you know, I'm looking for that candle to be on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band. And as you can see on CONY, we're currently at the top side of that Bollinger Band. We had a nice pop up today on CONY. We moved up $1.28, and that's a 3% move up. So we're sitting at $42.26 for the day. A very nice move on CONY. But since it is on the upper portion of that Bollinger Band, I don't necessarily want to buy it there. I prefer to buy it on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band. I would like for it to get down to the bottom of the Bollinger Band and then buy it there, as that is where I prefer to buy, but I want it at least on the bottom half. And then I also want that RSI2, which is this yellow line. I want that to be under 10. And I've got that 10 here in purple. And if it does drop down below that 10 and that candle is on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band, then that could be a potential buy for me. But as you can see on CONY, that is not the case. So therefore, even though it is red on my spreadsheet, it is not the right time to buy for me. So I just move right on to the next one, and we'll check out ULTY. And you can see on ULTY, it too is on the upper half of that Bollinger Band. We moved up 21 cents today, and we're sitting at $38.28. So we are on the upper portion of that Bollinger Band. And like I said before, I want it on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band, and I want that RSI2 below 10. Neither one of those are true, so I can skip ULTY as well, as it's just not the right time to buy for me. Now granted, if I did buy, since the current price of ULTY is under my real price per share, it will lower it. But I would much prefer to buy ULTY on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band, as that could give me a better buy price per share. So just like CONY, ULTY is a hold for now. So let's move on to SMCY. And here we are on SMCY. Now looky here. This one here definitely looks a little bit different, doesn't it? You notice anything that kind of stands out? Well, that would be the fact that we are on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band. We actually came and we broke down below the bottom of the Bollinger Band. And I wish I was watching this one during that time, right? Because I could have got those shares at around 768. But instead, I didn't take a look at this until the very end of the day. And that's when I saw that it is on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band. And it's actually sitting really close to the very bottom of that Bollinger Band. And if we take a look at that RSI2, which is this yellow line on the bottom of the screen here, if we hover over the end point, and you can see this number is right there. That's the RSI2. If I hover over that end point, 6.8. So that's definitely below 10. So the fact that we are on the bottom half of the Bollinger Band and all the way toward the bottom of the Bollinger Band, and we are below 10 on that RSI2, when both of those are true, I'm looking to possibly buy shares. So what did I do? That's exactly what I did. I bought some shares. So let's go back to my spreadsheet and let's go through the steps that I took for deciding how many shares I wanted to buy. Okay, we're back on my spreadsheet. So we've decided that since SMCY is on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band and that RSI2 is under 10, I'm interested in buying some shares of SMCY. To get a better idea of what that purchase will actually do for me and my real price per share here, I can use my real price per share calculator right here, and I'll show you how I used it just to give me an idea of what I was going to have once I did purchase those shares. So to use this, you have a drop down here. I click it and you pick along the list here of the one that you want to look at. And we want to look at SMCY. And this list will be different on your stock tracker sheet because this is my list of ETFs that I own. And your list will have a list of the ones you own. So I select SMCY for this one. Now, what buy price? Well, it was toward the end of the day and it was at $7.90. So I entered in the $7.90 into the buy price. And then I decided, okay, well, how many shares do I want? Well, I started off with saying, well, what if I got 25 shares? What would that do for me? Because my real price per share is currently $8.69, okay? So if I bought 25 shares, that's going to cost me $197.50, and that's going to lower my real price per share down to $8.59. So $8.69 down to $8.59, that's not too bad. And that's a 1% drop in that real price per share. But I wanted a bit more than just 1% drop. So I decided to try 50 shares. And that's going to cost me $395. And that takes me down to $8.51. Okay, so from $8.69 down to $8.51, that's a 2% drop. Looking better. But what if I doubled the 50 and I entered in 100 shares? What does that drop my real price per share down to? Well, that drops it down to $8.40. Now that's going to cost me $790, but that's going to give me about 3.3% decrease in that real price per share. So I thought that was a pretty good round number. So I decided to make that purchase of 100 shares. And I entered in a price of $7.89, and it actually went through at $7.89. So instead of $7.90, I actually only paid $7.89, which isn't going to be a whole lot of difference there, but that is what I ended up buying those shares at. So that was $789 worth, and I got my real price per share down to $8.39. So I went from $8.69 down to $8.39. And with the current price of SMCY at $7.90, now I am only 49 cents away from that share price of SMCY. Then, of course, once we earn those distributions coming up in the next couple of days, I will also be able to update that sheet with that distribution, and that's going to lower that real price per share even more. But that's how I'm handling these high yield ETFs. I continually to work to draw down that real price per share, no matter what the actual market price is doing for that ETF. And because we had that pullback today, and it came all the way down to around that previous low here and sitting at the bottom of that Bollinger Band, I'm kind of hoping that we start getting a nice little move back up. But of course, nothing is guaranteed, and this is not financial advice. But if that does happen, the top of that Bollinger Band is setting at around $8.45. And if you look on my sheet, I'm looking at having my real price per share at $8.39. So see, by buying those shares, I was actually able to bring down my real price per share down below the upper portion of that Bollinger Band. Because the upper portion of that Bollinger Band is setting at $8.45. But my real price per share is $8.39. So I'm just under that Bollinger Band upper portion. I feel like that's a pretty good position to be at on SMCY. Now, of course, I'll update my spreadsheet here with those distributions and any other purchases that I did make this week. And I'll do that this weekend, just as I normally do. And we'll find out at that point what that changes all of my ETFs to, and find out what the real price per share is on each one of those. But as you can see, my total gains now is at $19,107. So we've had a nice little pop up, and I'm making a little bit more money because the market price has gone up on some of these. But if you don't have a way of tracking your real price per share or your adjusted price per share, please come on over, join the Discord, get your copy of this spreadsheet, and start tracking your own ETFs so that you can really fully understand where you're at on each of your high yield ETFs, whether it's YMAX, NEOS, Defiance, Roundhill, Rex, whatever you're into. You can enter that right into those individual sheets. It'll populate the summary page here, and it just makes it nice and easy for you to easily open this one sheet, see which ones you need to focus on, and then you can take a look at the charts and make your decision if it's the right time for you to purchase or not. So that Discord link will be in the pinned comments and down in the description below, where you can get a copy of this spreadsheet, and you'll also get notifications of any other stocks, ETFs, high yield ETFs, LEAPS, and other options that I am making throughout the week, just so that you can see what all I'm doing and what I'm getting into. So next, I wanted to take a look at Visa, because I did buy a few shares of Visa, and as you can see, I've got a total of 6 shares, and my average purchase price of those is $331.67. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about a LEAPS option that I did make today. We actually had a big pullback on Visa, as you can see right here. This thing busted right out the bottom of that Bollinger Band and just kept on going, right? We fell down to a previous low over here, and I feel like that's a pretty good support right there. And we did. We came down and we got down to that low, and then we started coming up a little bit. Now, we ended up closing today at $327.88. And that's a $15 drop today. So a minus 4.46% down. What a drop today. So what did I do? Well, I decided to do a LEAPS option on Visa. And for a LEAPS option, I am buying that call, and I am setting that expiration date further out, right? So right now it's sitting at about a September of 2026 expiration date. And before we take a look at that option chain to get a little bit more detail of where I got in, why do I feel like Visa is going to move up? Well, if we take a look at that 1 year and 5 year chart, that's going to give us a little bit better idea. All right, so here we are on the 1 year chart, and as you can see, there's that red line, that's the 1 year. And we were staying above it, And here lately, we have just been kind of bouncing around off of that MA 200. Now, I prefer the candles to stay above that MA 200, but I feel like we're having a bit of a pullback, and I'm looking for this thing just to pop right back up into this original area right here around 350, and then I'll probably look to sell that LEAPS and make that profit. But of course, always keep in mind that nothing is guaranteed. And then we'll take a look at that 5-year chart, and there's the 5-year chart. You can see those candles staying above that MA 200. Now, I like that chart right there. But now, of course, anytime you're doing options, you do have that expiration date, so you do have to keep that in mind. You're not able to keep these forever. It's not like buying the shares, and even if it does drop, over time, eventually it can come back up and you can make your money back, right? Especially looking at a chart like this. But when you're doing LEAPS and you're doing options, then you do have a set period of time that stock has to do what you need it to do during that time period. And if it does not, and if it just trades sideways or it goes down, then you have theta that's eating away at your option amount there. So I think that's a good segue to move right into the options chain. And we're going to take a look to see what I actually got that option at. And here we are on the option chain. And as I said, I have an expiration date of September, and that was mid-September of 2026. So I can open this one up, and I scroll right on down, and I actually bought the 325. Okay, and as you can see right there, there's my order right there, right? That shows that I have a position of 1. And this is a call that I did buy. So I had to pay the premium. How much did I pay? I got it for $3,000. So per share, it was at 30 bucks. Okay. And as you can see, the mid currently is at 31.70. So even if I would have sold this, even by the end of the day, I could have sold it and made $1.70 per share times 100 shares. And that would be $170 in one day, right? I could have done that in one day. But as I showed you on the chart, I see this one moving on up, and I'm looking for it to get closer and back up to the top of that Bollinger Band, being around 350. So I'm going to give it some time, right? Because I've got until September, even though I do not want to hold it that long. I would like for this to move within the next few weeks. Maybe I hold it for a month, but I really don't think I want to hold it longer than that. But if this thing moves to the top of that Bollinger Band, I just might be selling this. And at that point, it might be a good $10 difference. So that could give me a good $1,000 in my pocket for this one. But it all depends on how long it takes for it to get there. And of course, if it does go up in price. If it moves down in price, then my option here will decrease, okay? And if it goes down below 30, then I will be at a potential loss. And you have to make your decisions of what amount are you willing to risk. Are you willing to risk the whole $3,000 for a position? Or are you willing to risk maybe 10% of that? And if it would drop down to that point, you're going to go ahead, take that loss, and look to maybe get back in to ride it back up at that point. But that's a decision you have to make. But I do have that call that I did buy for 30 bucks at 325 out to September the 18th of 2026. And as long as this thing moves up in the next month, I should be able to sell it back for some pretty good premium. But with a drop in the charts like this, I honestly could not pass that up. So I am looking for this to pop right back up into this area. And if it does, chances are I will be selling out. And we can turn on those Bollinger Bands just to show you where those levels are. And you can see the top of that is around 362. And that 350 is almost at the midpoint of that Bollinger Band. So once it starts getting up above that, then I would probably start setting a stop just in case if it did come back down. kick me out and I can take that profit. Otherwise, I can let it just to keep on running on up. So I'm super excited about this one, and we'll see over time how it all plays out. So of course, if you need a way of tracking that adjusted price per share, come on over, join our Discord where you can get a copy of the spreadsheet. You can also ask questions, offer up some ideas for changes, or anything else that you may have questions on. All of that can be done in the Discord as well. So the link to the Discord is in the pinned comments and down in the description below. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button and smash the like button. It would be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.